Hi everyone, welcome to Travel Tutorials with my Happy Suitcase. In case it isn't obvious, today we're going to talk about libations. One of my favorite topics, one of my favorite things to do and explore when I'm traveling, is to find some local flavors. So whether it be liquors, wines, beers, I love to go and find local places, try out the local flavors. It can really give you some insight into what flavors are very popular in a given country, and also just makes a really nice souvenir. So you can take some home, pour a glass, make yourself a cocktail, and that flavor, when you taste it, I find it always takes you back to the moment where you first had it. So it gives you a great way to sort of reminisce about your trip, bring back some memories, but also take home a little something different. I do try to, when I'm going to bring things home when I'm traveling, I try to find things that I can't get at home. So, there's really no point in buying something that I can get at home, unless it's significantly cheaper. Don't get me wrong, the duty-free at the airport can save you a lot of money. But I do try to find things that maybe aren't as readily available, again, giving me kind of that unique experience to take home with me. So I have here an assortment of things. I'm going to run through some of them just to give you an idea of some of the things that are out there. But you don't necessarily have to go to a store and commit to buying a whole bottle of something that you may or may not like. Lots of tasting stations are actually popping up all over the place. So whether it be wine tastings, you go into a brewery and do a flight of beer. Some of the places that distilleries and hard liquors actually also have tasting rooms set up now. So you can go in and do a tasting. Another option is simply just to order a drink with dinner. Take a look at the menu. If there's something that you've never heard of or doesn't look familiar, ask and maybe try it as a cocktail, and you might find that you really like it. That's sort of how I ended up with this bottle of Zubrovka from Poland. It's this bison grass vodka that when you mix it equal parts with apple juice, it tastes like apple pie filling. It's amazing. So, I was in Poland and they had a drink called the Tatonka. On the menu, and it turns out that's what this was. So I made sure I went out and got some and brought that home. You can actually start to get this at some duty-free places now when you're coming back to the U.S., which is great, but I don't know that I've seen this for sale in the U.S. yet. Some other kind of Eastern European libations that I enjoy, Borovichka. So this came from Slovakia. It's strong, to say the least. This and this other drink called Slivka, which is a prune brandy, or plum brandy, I should say, they will absolutely warm you up on a cold, cold day. You can look up recipes online for cocktails for all of these as well, so I won't run through lots of ideas of how to use them, but things that I can't say I've ever seen when I've been at a local liquor store. England is full of delicious flavors. I'm a huge fan of gin. Have liked kind of your regular gin, but there is this huge gin revolution going on in England where you can get gins of so many different flavors. Lots of craft distillers have popped up, small batch type of places coming up with some really interesting flavors. Now, sort of more mainstream, Beefeater Pink, I have to give a shout out to. My all-time favorite flavor gin. It's so delicious. And I can't tell you how excited I am that you can pretty much get this anywhere in the U.S. right now, or at least certainly in a lot of places. So thank you, Beefeater, and thank you, American importers, for making this available. I love this. But there's some really unusual other flavors. I have a rhubarb ginger gin, a gooseberry gin. Gooseberry, which I didn't honestly realize was a real berry, but apparently, yes, gooseberries are real berries, and they made a gin out of it. This one, which I've never seen for sale anywhere in the U.S., this is a violet gin, as in, like flower. So it makes a really interesting gin and tonic. Something that has a flavor you really won't get from anything else. But again, I can only find this in the UK, so I have to bring this home. Pimm's. Now, Pimm's isn't necessarily new to a lot of people. You can get Pimm's in liquor stores. You can get Pimm's cocktails on the menus. But what we don't typically see, at least in the U.S., is different flavors and varieties of Pimm's. So this is actually a Pimm's Winter, right? Who knew? Pimm's Winter? There's a Pimm's blackberry and elderflower that I also really, really love in the summer as well. There's a Pimm's strawberry mint. So Pimm's comes in lots of different flavors, not just in the variety that we always see here. So if you find yourself in England, go to the grocery store, check it out. You can actually find some different flavors. Depending on the season, they might actually have these seasonal flavors at duty-free at the airport as well. So that's an option too. But definitely check it out because this Pimwinter, delish. I do also like to try and focus and find kind of little small mom and pop places there you can get things. Maybe not, in a big liquor store or in a grocery store. So there's this one I picked up when I was in Austria. It's made with blackberries. It says a blackberry liqueur. I actually found this in a chocolate shop of all places. They happen to sell this. In Iceland, there's a place that makes all these different liqueurs as well. This is a crowberry. Never heard of a crowberry before, so that definitely piqued my curiosity. So this is from the Reykjavik distillery. You can visit them if you're in Iceland and Reykjavik. You can do a tasting, and they have lots of great flavors. I have a blueberry one as well, but also really, really delicious. While we're on the topic of Iceland, there's some really cool flavors. They have, of course, the Reykja vodka, which is vodka that is distilled through volcanic rock, which gives it a little bit of interesting flavor. And then there's also this spirit called Brennivin. So purely Icelandic, also really great to bring back. This one's nice because it's plastic, and I picked this one up at duty free in the Reykjavik airport, so really easy to transport. So it's not just all about liqueurs. I mean, there's definitely some great liqueurs and things being distilled out there that are worth trying, and certainly not just abroad. There's great stuff in your own country as well. When it comes to wines, obviously if you're traveling through wine country, France, Italy, New Zealand, Australia, Napa Valley, Sonoma, there's lots of places for you to try the wines. And there are lots of ways for you to get those wines home. Most places will offer some kind of shipping service for you. But if you happen to stumble on some wines that maybe, you aren't at the vineyard for them to do that, or you can't get them shipped home, I love to bring home different wines too. And again, wines that I can't get at home. This is actually a sparkling wine from New Zealand that I absolutely love. It's called Quartz Reef. Had this, we were actually traveling around Waiheke Island off the coast of Auckland, had a glass of this, fell in love with it, had to bring some home. There is a wine that we found called Pig Flats. As far as I know, I don't believe it's made anymore, but it was this fantastic, crisp, dry white wine made in New Zealand. It was a Sauvignon Blanc. It was like $5 or $6 a bottle, if that, super cheap. Could not definitely get that in the U.S., so I wanted to make sure I brought some of that back as well. And then when it comes to beers, find local breweries, find places that are, unique. If you go to a pub, you'll see lots of taps, and you'll see taps with local beers, and you'll see taps with all the beers that, you already know the name. Don't order a beer that's a name you already know. You can do that at home, is the way I feel about it. Try something local. One of my absolute favorite breweries is in England. It's in the Cotswolds. It's the Hook Norton Brewery, which I'll give a shout out to them. Best brewery tour I've ever been on. Been on quite a few. Their brewery tour is fantastic. And the tasting afterwards even better. But Old Hooky is one that I really, really love. They have a Christmas seasonal one called 12 Days that, oh my gosh, if I could get that here in the U.S., I would drink it all year long. But go to a pub. That's a great way to try lots of different beers. So that way, you can get a taster in the pub. Most of the bartenders will give you a taste of something. So you can try lots of the local beers, and then grab some that you can't get at home and bring them with you. Which leads me to this very valuable tool. I never travel without bottle bags. Because of the fact that I love to try these local flavors. I love, beers and wines, and I love to be able to bring things home that I can't get at home. I always have a stash of these in my suitcase. You cannot take any of this in your carry-on bag. The 3-ounce rule applies to packaged alcohol as well. So, you can't put a bottle of this in your carry-on and get through security. They'll take it from you. But you also don't really want to take the chance of putting it in your suitcase and then it breaks and then it's ruined everything in your bag. So stock up on a few of these that, they come in different varieties. You'll see some that are more cloth. So this one has bubble wrap inside, but they seal shut. And then I typically will still cushion around this, put a layer of clothes underneath, put a layer of clothes on top just for a little extra added protection. But then I'll just, bring all my things home in my checked bag. One thing to know is, if you're coming into the U.S., they limit the amount you can bring in to 2 liters. Now, what I've learned, though, is that it's not that it's illegal to bring more than 2 liters in. It's just that if you bring in more than 2 liters of alcohol, you are subject to pay sales tax on everything over 2 liters. And the sales tax is at the prevailing rate of whatever airport you arrive in. So back to that Pig Flats example, when I was in New Zealand, here's this amazing wine, it was $5 or whatever a bottle, and I wanted to bring home as much as possible. So I grabbed 6 bottles, I'm not kidding, 6 bottles, 6 of these little bags, packed them really carefully in my suitcase, because I thought, well, 6% of a $5 bottle of wine isn't very much. So if I have to pay 6%, I brought 6 bottles, have to pay tax on 4. Okay, if I have to pay $1 in sales tax to bring back those 6 bottles, I'm absolutely going to do it. So hopefully all of this has been really good information for you and gives you some thoughts about what you could possibly do when you travel. Some tips on, some new potential souvenirs to bring home, and some ideas for things to watch out for when you're traveling. So for more tips and other travel information, you can watch other videos on this YouTube channel or go to myhappysuitcase.com. Thanks for watching.